Milford School Committee meeting, Thursday, May 23rd. This evening, we are going to open up with a special public hearing on the budget. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast through Milford TV. There is local media here in attendance. If there is anyone that would like to make a video or audio recording, please let myself or one of the other committee members know. Okay, so do we have anyone here to speak about the budget? Seeing no one, we will take a vote on the fiscal 2014 budget. Do I have a motion to accept? Motion from Scott, second from Mike. All in favor? Unanimous in favor. That covers the business we had on budget. Do I have a motion to adjourn the open public meeting? Motion from Mike, second from Don. All in favor? Unanimous in favor. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. We will now open the meeting for the regular Milford School Committee meeting of Thursday, May 23rd. Again, in compliance with our open meeting laws, tonight's meeting is being broadcast through Milford TV. There is local media here present. If anyone would like to make a video or audio recording, please let myself or one of the other committee members know. Very good. Our first order of business is the approval of minutes. Tonight we have the minutes of the regular school committee meeting on May 9th. We do not have enough members present here this evening that were in attendance for the May 9th meeting. Bob, so I asked that we'll move this to our next meeting agenda.
Yes.
Okay. Next order of business, announcements, correspondence, and distributions. Do any members have any?
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yeah, Mike.
First off, I'd like to say congratulations, and I apologize if I get her name wrong. I know her last name is Smith, but I think her first name is Shannon.
It is.
Who got the, she broke the record for state girls softball strikeouts.
I saw that.
I want to reach out to her
Yeah.
and say congratulations from the Milford School Committee. But I also want to take a few minutes, and I was just talking to Mr. Consigli about the Memorial Day programs in our district. They're absolutely phenomenal. We should be as a school committee, we should be very, very proud of what our district is doing. I had a chance to make the second program at the Woodland School. I made the Memorial Day program today. Just really amazing, and I just want to send a special thanks out to all the buildings, all the building principals, the teachers, anybody that was involved in it. It's just a very powerful thing, and I personally want to say thank you, and I know the veterans also want to say thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a great point, Mike. It's always, many I've gone to, they're very heartfelt. And,
Oh.
The teachers and the students do a great job putting those on. So,
Right.
Yeah, thanks. Any other members? Scott?
Actually, just a request as I think about, unfortunately we've had, most recently there was a very terrible storm that just hit the state of Oklahoma, and specifically Moore, Oklahoma. Unfortunately, one of the areas that was hit was an elementary school. I would actually just ask, in lieu of some of the fatalities and that awful occurrence, if we could just take a moment in remembrance of them.
That's a great idea, Scott. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Don?
Yeah, I reached out to Carla Oliva today, congratulate her and her staff. There was an article in the paper today about, the inspector went through and, Milford, there were a couple minor things at two of the schools, but for the most part, it was no violation. So I called her to congratulate her. Of course, she thanked her staff, and as she would, and so just want to congratulate the entire cafeteria crew for the job that they're doing. And then like to follow up on Mike's thing, you know, to really reach out and, you know, thank all the men and women in service. You know, whether it's they're serving in the military now or, you know, especially those who made the ultimate sacrifice in the past, because that's what this weekend's all about. But also to, you know, another message would be for the kids that are graduating this year. You know, they're entering that week, so their senior week. So I just hope that everybody's safe and has a great time, and we continue to just have multiple years of success here at the school. So.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? I have a few announcements myself this evening. First and foremost, I am very proud to announce that our superintendent, Bob Tremblay, was recognized for a very nice award. He received the Kathy Tossolini Excellence in School Administration Award for his contributions to arts education and efforts towards empowering learning in and through the arts. And he received this yesterday in Cambridge at Lesley University. Bob, great job. Congratulations. Thank you so much. And Bob got this certificate as well as a nice framed award too. So very proud, Bob. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Keep those safe. You got a couple mementos for your office there.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
I just have a couple of announcements.
I got just a couple more quick things, if I might. Last week, myself, Bob, and some other members of the school committee had the opportunity to attend the Special Olympics Awards Banquet that was held here at the Milford High School cafeteria, and it was a wonderful event. It was a great opportunity to see all of our special athletes and their families. In fact, speaking of of Carla's staff, they served up a very nice dinner for everyone that was in attendance. I thank them for their work there. I thank all Jen Walsh and all of the coaches and all of the volunteers, and we were able to actually, as part of the school committee, present all of the athletes with a nice certificate of award. It was a wonderful event, and it would be my recommendation to this committee that is a very appropriate and much better way of recognizing and appreciating our special athletes. I know we do have them in here once a year, but really it's a small group of the kids that participate overall. It's usually just the basketball players. So my recommendation would be, instead of trying to have them in here, it's a great opportunity to get out, meet them and their families, and have some time sort of to interact with them and be able to really, truly recognize all of their efforts. So it was a wonderful event, and I thank all those that were involved. Last but not least, I also had the opportunity of attending the Dick Corbin Senior Athletic Awards on Monday evening. It went absolutely fabulous. All of the athletes were recognized, and I'll tell you, Mike Tempesta had the opportunity of announcing all of our athletes that are also high academic achievers. And I will tell you, it was a large amount of the population of athletes that were there in attendance. And that made me very proud. And again, I firmly believe that athletics in our school systems play a very important part in contributing to the high achievement in the academic area as well. So many thanks to the Milford High School Boosters Club who sponsored the event, Tim Cochran, the president, as well as all the speakers. I'm not gonna name them, I don't wanna miss anybody, but Richie and our athletic director, Richie Pigastavo, and all of the presenters did a fabulous job, and I thank the Corbin family who was in attendance as well. It went fantastic, and it was a great event for the seniors. So that's all I have, Bob. Thanks.
Okay, just a couple of
Yep.
follow-ups. And thanks for the kind words about the award. It's just great to be, in the city of Boston, city of Cambridge, with these arts educators from around the state, and having Milford's name, you know, and our kids, this whole school district being featured that way, not just me, but the whole district. So thank you for your support of that, and I completely agree with your point on whether it's arts or athletics, getting kids to come together and work, whether it's through an orchestra or through a team, coming together to you know, is really, it's just a critical skill that our kids need to have in order to be functioning beyond the school life and careers. It's what we all do, right? We all collaborate and work together as teams, and I'm really proud of what we have to offer in this district in terms of athletics and in the arts. And thanks for that. Additional announcements that I have this evening. I want to thank the town meeting members for supporting our school budget on Monday night at town meeting, and the whole community for the support of our school budget. It allows us to do that important work that we've been doing, and we're very excited about what lies ahead for the next school year. And my thanks to the school committee for your continuous support in allowing us to improve programs constantly in our school district. A couple of other announcements this evening. We are well on our way to a screening process for an assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction and assessment. We'll getting those applications in, and I put together a panel of curriculum team leaders to begin to look at that. Interviews will be conducted by myself, Kathy Perry, Meg Belcito, and Jen Lancaster, basically our central office team, to begin to look at that. So we're starting that process. As the committee knows and as the public knows, Michael Tempesta, our principal at the high school, has been named the superintendent of schools in Saugus. So we wish him well. I called the staff together at Milford High School this morning to give him a small token of my appreciation, wish him well, also recognize the retirees. And on the last piece of that was also to acknowledge and to announce formally the appointment of Carolyn Bonnock, assistant principal currently as principal of Milford High School, to succeed Mike Tempesta starting July 1. And very happy to have her on board. She's eager to come on board, and I hope you'll welcome her at some point this before the year is up.
Love to, yeah, have her, yeah.
And we'll have a reception
Sure.
for her in the fall.
Great.
As a matter of correspondence or distributions, I did put at your place this evening with the disclosure of appearance of conflict of interest. You can read that. I don't know if I gave you one. Really, what this is just is under the law, I have an obligation if there's any potential appearance of a conflict of interest. This relates to our I think we're in the process, Kathy, maybe you can help me with the contract with a new hockey rink to be built, in the process of being built in Hopedale, which would allow us to have our teams play hockey practice right down the road, increase gate revenue. The price is great, and it'd save us the trip to Marlboro. The reason for the disclosure is it happens to be a neighbor and a friend of mine that's constructing it. So under the law, I wanted to provide this, and the required disclosure is to my appointing board, and that's you. So just to make it fully public, you have a copy of that. And there's no benefit, obviously, to me on that, but it's certainly a great benefit to the town of Milford in terms of cost reduction and possibly more gate revenue. For people going to see games, they don't have to drive to Marlboro now. They can just go next door to Hopedale. And was the locker room, Kathy, did that ever come to life? Do you know that there was I know they made the deal to us initially for signing on was that Milford would have its own dedicated locker room for our athletes, and I thought I'll have to follow up and find out about that. But it was a very exciting proposition where kids could leave their gear and practice every day and just have their own dedicated Milford High School locker room there. So it was a great opportunity for us. I thought I had another announcement to make. Oh, yes. As far as a correspondence, I want the committee to be briefed on this. I've had a couple of interactions with a firm that's been, I guess, retained by the town for the casino gaming and to look at mitigation impact. I want to just make sure the school committee is aware of those conversations. As you know, the casino's been a topic of the news in town, and just trying to estimate what the kind of impact would be on the schools going forward. So I'm beginning to do some of that work. I've reached out to area colleagues in Norwich, Connecticut, and areas around Foxwoods there to see what the impact was, and I'm working on preparing those responses for the town as well. So I just want to make sure the committee's in the loop on those conversations as far as correspondence. And it's just begun, and I'll continue to bring this up to the school committee so you're fully in the know on that.
Do you plan on heading down to the Main Street office that they opened in maybe?
I was going to go to Foxwoods now.
Well, they came here. No,
I haven't been down there
Yeah.
yet. Yeah.
well, it might be worth seeing what you can dig up there. too.
I laughed though in jest, but it would be interesting to talk to the superintendent of Norwich in Norwich.
No,
and just see
understood.
the,
Yeah.
I'm tongue in cheek on that, but I haven't been down to the. I will visit the new Main Street office. It's very difficult to assess that because our schools, even with the new Woodland building project, our schools that design enrollment is 985, and as people who've been on the Woodland School building project know, you can't build schools larger then, anticipating that down the road, but you can't build for added growth. It's designed based on what you have in front of you, based on birth rate data in town. So if you have a surge of move-in, that could be very problematic for a school district that's built to accommodate its size based on Milford numbers. So it's a real unknown, but, it's, unlike the police department could add police officers, we can't just simply add to our schools. We can add staffing, but it doesn't prevent overcrowding. But what I don't know is how real that impact is. And right now, it's just speculation.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think you bring up a good point there, because I think when we think about the overall impact of what that could be, there are some very big challenges. It goes so far beyond just that Woodland project. If there were to be an influx, we're talking, some of the numbers that are being tossed out for jobs, which, listen, we can always use more jobs in Massachusetts, and, they're talking 5,500 to 8,000 potential new jobs, which would be fantastic. However, if half of them bring kids, 8,000 jobs, that doubles our school district, right, overnight. That is a significant impact, so I certainly appreciate you giving us that information, and also the due diligence that I know that you will put in with Norwich. I would encourage you to not just reach out to Norwich, but also the surrounding communities. Having worked in that area for some time, it impacted multiple communities because of the way that it's situated, and it's a fairly rural area of Connecticut. So some of those positions, they may have moved in multiple communities. So I would encourage you to please, not just Norwich,
No, I'm glad
but
you
also
said that.
a couple of
I
others.
should have said that I actually reached out to 10 superintendents in a 10-mile radius of
Okay.
both Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun. Norwich happens to be kind of situated in the middle. The superintendent that I spoke with actually has relatives in Milford and was the quickest to call me back. I haven't heard back from the other superintendents. I will follow up with them. The one that I did hear back from spoke about some of the regional impact, and there was some impact. What's not clear to me, it isn't clear to this superintendent actually, is was the impact of the casino, was the impact of the school district a direct result of the casino? Or could it possibly be by chance that certain numbers changed the way they did? Well, I don't know, but there's no direct empirical evidence to say one meant the other. And that's going to be the difficult part here for me. But I will continue to work on that and talk to people who've lived this experience to try to get firsthand information. But I will reach out to the districts as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's all I have for announcements this evening.
Well,
It's enough. I think.
that's a lot of good
That's a lot
news.
of good-
Did you want to mention the name of the ice rink? Do we know, or?
Yeah, I think I believe it's called the
That's a
Blackstone
wonderful
Valley.
opportunity.
I think it's Blackstone Valley Ice Arena. Yeah, Blackstone Valley Ice
Okay.
Arena, and it's great. It's really exciting. I know they're in the construction phase. I think it's due to be done by the end of the summer.
Oh, great. Be much more convenient for our families and students,
Oh
that's
yeah,
for sure.
just
Yep.
it's right near Green Mountain Chocolates in Hopedale, in that area there,
Yep.
industrial park.
Good.
Yeah.
And also, I'd like to personally thank Michael Tempesta for his service as our principal here at the high school. I think he did a great job, and I wish him nothing but the best in his new role at Saugus. And in the same breath, very excited to have Carrie Varnock stepping into the role as principal, and looking forward to the enthusiasm that she'll bring to that, and look forward to having her here some night with all of us. So, great. Yeah, thanks.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Next on the agenda is the Milford School Committee meeting schedule for 2013 to... Oh, I'm sorry, I missed invitation to speak. Is there anyone here to speak this evening? Seeing no one? Okay, now we will go to the Milford School Committee meeting schedule of 2013-2014. As is typical, we regularly meet the first and third Thursdays of the month. The second meeting in February is listed as the 27th, since the third Thursday falls during the winter school vacation. So has everyone had a chance to take a look at that? Also, we have scheduled either a meeting for July and/or August. And it would be my recommendation that we get through June and see where we're at, and determine from there whether, we need both, or whether we choose to pick to have one of them. Anyone have any Any discussion on that? No? Do I have a motion to accept? Don? Second from Mike. All in favor? Unanimous in favor. Motion passes. Next up, we have the school improvement plan and parent-teacher handbooks for Woodland and Shining Star. We're gonna have Woodland. Is Woodland going first? We'll go first. Okay. We have Principal Craig Consigli and Assistant Principal Lisa Kincaid here to join us. You want it? Mike Manor? Kathy Pelican. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
Hello, good evening.
All right. First, I'd like to start with just, I guess, thanking Bob for the opportunity to be at Woodland. It has been just a tremendous year for me. Moving from middle school kids down to elementary kids, which, you know, I have kids of my own that are the same age, so just to work with them, it's rejuvenating every day to have them come in, and they're always happy to see you. It's great. So, not to say that middle school East was a bad time either, but it's always exciting to come in, and the kids just have so much to tell you. It's been a great year. So I just wanted to start with just a couple things that some of our accomplishments this year. First, I think was from what I hear, I saw a little bit of the arrival dismissal procedures in the past. It was out on the street, out on North Vine Street, down on Congress Street, and we moved things around. We have the buses going around the school now, and the cars coming through the bus loop. There's no longer any traffic, except for today, but there's no longer any traffic out on the street. So I think that went really well. NEASC was a huge accomplishment. It's to get the accreditation finally, just for the staff was great. They've been working on it for several years, 3 or 4 or so. But it really took, I think, a toll on the staff, because every professional development opportunities and everything else they had was dedicated towards basically this self-study. So we're looking forward to next year and really hitting professional development and getting back to the basics. The evaluation tool, I for as much work as it is, it's a tremendous amount of work. I love it. I love it because it allows me to talk with teachers more and get into classrooms more. So I think that's gone really well. The building project it's fabulous. It's so, to see what the future could be potentially, to do this feasibility study. For the town of Milford, it's going to be a great thing if it comes to fruition. But I've seen other schools. I've seen where we could go, and it's just exciting. And then finally, and I say finally, but not really. It was at the beginning too. Our standards-based report card, and that was again something that was a couple of years in the making, but to finally get that through, and I think that's another driver of our school improvement plan this year. So it's been great. Before I go into the school improvement plan, though, I want to turn over the handbook to Mrs. Kincaid, who is great, by the way. That's enough of that, though.
For our parent-student handbook, we did have some minimal changes to it, but what we really looked at this year is the consistency between ourselves with Brookside and Memorial. So you'll see in there, we looked at our recess and our lunch schedule, so we're changing that a little bit. So just as Memorial and Brookside go out prior to lunch, we'll be sending our students outside first and then having lunch later, which, you know, just speaking to them seems, you know, the students are taking more time to have their lunch. They're not rushing to try and go outside. So that's something we looked at, trying to be more consistent with Brookside and Memorial. We also updated our dismissal and arrival procedures with the bus loop and the car loop, which has been working really well. And as a district, we also looked at being consistent with our attendance policy, making sure that we're all on the same page, from Shining Star up until the high school, making sure we're, following those procedures and working together. So there's been a lot of great dialogue around that. So there's little, minor word changes here and there just to make sure we were consistent with the other schools. The other thing we looked at is our dress code, and, since we're sort of in the middle between, Brookside and Memorial and also Stacy, just looking at what our dress code stated and just kind of cleaning up some language with flip-flops where they are a danger at the school, especially when kids are outside on the climbers, playing some of the games that they are. Just looking at, having, just as Stacy does, no flip-flops, closed-toed shoes, just kind of helping them out a bit so our students are prepared as they move up to the middle school. So basically, we really just looked at, how can we be more consistent with the middle school as well as the other two elementary schools.
Great.
Exciting. You guys have had a busy year.
Oh, yeah.
Had a very busy year. Thank you guys. I know how much work you guys put in every single day, and I know you've got some helpers here with you, and who've been there along with you. A couple of things. One, I want to start with not just a thank you, but I want to share some feedback that I've received over the last year. One of the benefits, I guess I'll put it as a benefit, is that, and it really is one of the nice parts about being an elected official is that no one's ever afraid to share their opinion with you, and no matter what that opinion is. And what I will share with you, and it's a very nice thing, is not only have I received multiple phone calls about what a great job you two have done at Woodland, I've never even received a neutral comment. Everything has been so overwhelmingly positive for all the work that you two have done at Woodland. So I wanted to, not just privately, but in a public forum, make sure that I say thank you and that I share that with you. And really and as a parent of a student who's at that school, thank you, because I can only imagine what it must be like with hundreds of 8, 9, and 10-year-olds running around. So I did want to make sure that I shared that with you.
Thank you.
All right, and as Craig would say, that's enough of that. Well, I do have a couple of questions for you. So one thing, you've been very busy with the new report card and the NEASC. Something that you mentioned, and I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned that the PDPs being focused, the professional development being focused on the accreditation kind of took its toll. Can you talk a little about what impact you think that may have had on either the teachers, and is it something we need to look at as a committee, and is there a way that we can change that to either make things easier for you and as well as for the teachers so that next time it does come around, or any other future issues?
Well, I think, honestly, there's no easy answer, but the reality is it was the first time there was no document to go on, so we had to create this document from scratch. When you talk about the Stacy one or the Milford High School one, they at least have a document that we're working on every year. So when it comes time to do the 10-year, they have a document. They just, make the tweaks, make the changes as they come, and here we are. We're ready to go. It's not. I don't think. I know it's comprehensive, but to do it from scratch and really not have a clue what you're doing, because none of them ever went through it. I think that's part of the reason, and just having that feeling of not knowing, are we doing it right? Are we saying what we're supposed to say here? I think that's the major part of it, and feeling that, we keep talking about all the things that we're doing, but we're not really able to spend time improving. We're not able to spend time. The time that, they spend some time, but not the time that it takes to really make sure our curriculum is in check, which came out in NEASC, in the review. And the collaboration that time, and I guess people don't really understand how much time, how precious those half a days are. I think sometimes parents and community see the kids out running around on a half a day and they figure the teachers are doing the same thing, and that's not the case at all. You know, for the last 3 or 4 years on those half a days, you know, there's only 4 or 5 in a year. We're working on NEASC, and looking forward, we're gonna be talking about things like RTI and making sure our curriculum is up to speed, the things that really impact our everyday lives, you know, so. I don't really have the answer for you to make it easier. There really isn't a way to make it easier, you know?
I mean,
I just hope that the next time around, since we already have this document and we have to work on it every year anyways, that it's not gonna take as much time.
and that would be my
And,
question,
you know.
is this sort of just because it was a baseline this first time doing it,
Yeah.
it
and-
took a lot longer and maybe a little easier going forward, or?
Right, and another part of that was, that it included all of the other elementary schools. It was the first time that NEAS did that it was a program of all the elementary schools. So they didn't have clear answers for us either, you know? So, I don't know, I think it'll be better when we move ahead.
It was something that caught my ear, and I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't
It definitely-
detracting, and that wasn't
definitely
gonna
was
be
a stressor.
ongoing. Okay.
Definitely was a stressor.
All right. So, I think you guys came through it, and clearly you got the accreditation and came
Yep.
through it, and want to obviously congratulate you and your entire team for coming through and doing such a beautiful job. So thank you. The work
Thanks.
paid off, but I know my fear is I guess that it may have came at a price, and I guess I'm still not real clear of what that price may be. So hopefully it won't be. Hopefully it's nothing terribly steep.
No, just to add some further comment on that, what Craig mentioned about the accreditation report citing certain shortcomings in curriculum is something that we had on our radar. This report really, in many ways, helps us to really solidify just with the position we, for example, curriculum, the superintendent coming on board for curriculum is going to be a major step for us, and it directly responds to that report. Our summer retreat planning this summer will really be focused on mapping out each specific half-day that we have in service days to how we're going to use that time best for our staff. One of the complications beyond that is the state keeps throwing things at us literally monthly, and if they could just stop for a minute, let us just catch up. You know, really just kind of get caught up. The evaluation tool, I mean, all these things require time, and there's really not much of it. So, you know, that's something we have to maybe consider for the contract negotiations. We come back to the table to say, how do we build in more time?
Yeah, and I think
And-
it may be the benefit of everyone.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying about the state. I think you've got a better shot holding back the tide than you do
Yeah.
of stopping the state.
I'm sure you're right.
But I think it may be something worth having the conversations with the administrators and continue with the teachers. And I'm a big advocate of communication. The more we can talk and get everybody on the same page and making sure we're investing in everyone's future and being mindful that the students are at the middle of it. So I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I can remember the Sunday we met down at Brookside in the fall with that very large NEAS committee. And to say it was stressful, I'm sure it was, but I mean, you all and the teachers responded just absolutely professionally. You did a great job, so I thank you too.
Thanks.
Thanks.
The first, do we have to approve that first? Or do you wanna do it after?
Why don't you go ahead with the improvement, and then
All right.
we'll take a vote on both of them.
All right, first I want to recognize all the members of my committee. It was an awesome committee, awesome. It was a cast of all-stars. So the teacher reps, Corey Daniels, Tara Davern, Samantha Hinnant, Adam Manning, Alex Onesian, and Kathy Peliquin, who's here tonight. Parent reps, Dave Ferreira, Mike Manor, who's co-chair here tonight. Jen Parson was secretary, Marianne Silvestri, Tara Spiegelman, Leah Valente, Chris Wilson, and then our community rep was Andy Anderson. So I challenge anybody to find a better committee.
That was great. Great
We
group.
just had great discussions, and that's what we get down to, figuring out what kind of improvement plan we wanted to put forth. We aligned it with the teacher tool, so you'll see the goals. correspond with that, with our teacher evaluation, but I guess the general overall feel of our improvement plan is teaching and learning, and we're looking forward to having an assistant superintendent that's gonna drive curriculum for us and help. We recognize there's a need to find a better way to house our curriculum frameworks. Right now, I'm finding that a lot of them, and this is true of the middle school I was just at, they're in binders, and they're not user-friendly. We're talking about standards and goals and everything in a binder, and there are tools out there that are electronic that allow you to make lesson plans and pull right from the document. You can pull the standard right from it. So that's what we looked at in making sure that our curriculum is aligned with the states. So that was our first major goal for next year, and that's going to take a lot of time, and we recognize that. And the next thing was getting down to our RTI goals, and RTI meaning response to intervention, and how do we help the low kids, how do we help the middle kids, how do we help the high kids. One thing that's coming out of it is we're going into next year with, one thing that I saw was classroom teachers had schedules, and they made schedules for what kind of worked the best for them. They had their specials, and then they kind of devised when they had math, when they had English. So sometimes we had conflicts with schedules, and it was hard for, like, say, a kid that needed reading intervention to be pulled out of this class and not have a spot somewhere to go in the reading intervention. So we streamlined it. For next year, we're going to have common prep time for every teacher. So everybody that's on Team 1, for example, the 4 or 5 teachers will be off at the same time. They'll be able to collaborate. And at the same time, we added a period in everyone's schedule that it's going to be an intervention enrichment block. So we'll be able to pull out the kids that need reading intervention, put them with a reading intervention teacher, and then the most important part of it is get them back in the class. What I saw with the schedule is sometimes a kid can get locked into that, and even if he's able to make improvements, it's hard to get the kid back. So we looked at this schedule as a way to have some fluidity there and get them in and out and get more kids. So if a kid's not already in intervention and, you know, has a hard time with a certain topic, we can get that kid into and get the help. So I think that's going to be great. But really, I've noticed that the teachers do a tremendous amount of collaborating after school, before school, and it's great, but, you know, during the day they just don't have the time. So I think this is going to allow for some time for them to talk about the curriculum and talk about students and all the assessments that we do, to have that time to talk about these assessments and gains and maybe areas of weakness, I think is going to be great. So that's what we're looking forward to next year. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
It's an excellent plan.
Yeah. Craig, the software that you mentioned that might help piece the curriculum together,
Yep.
What kind of help do you need with that? Or is that something the district is looking at as a whole? Or I would think you'd want to, so that everyone's sort of using the same tool. And I agree. I mean, it would seem the way to go rather than having these manuals put together.
No one looks at them.
Right.
We started to do that work as part of the curriculum committee, and we all agreed as a team to say, well, let's get our next curriculum leader on board to see what sort of strengths they bring and what tools they're familiar with.
Yeah, okay.
Before we kind of sign up and buy into something. But it's really all web-based. So now we would upload Milford's curriculum, and then it would theoretically would line up with where the Common Core is, and then we'd see where our gap areas are. Then our CTLs would go in and now design curriculum to fill those gaps. And now it's
a lot easier to do.
Absolutely, it's accessible to everybody. Our homeschool parents would have access to that same curriculum, so it's all consistent for them as well. Parents would know what's being taught, what grade level, district-wide. It's really a useful tool for us, but it's an investment, a financial investment as well. So before we venture
Yeah,
down
no,
that path.
understood.
Yeah.
But something that we'd look to the new assistant superintendent of curriculum, maybe to work with the technology director or
That's
or
right.
whatnot, and
Yeah.
put that together. And
Absolutely
to
right.
take a look at what would work best and what would be most cost efficient, you're right?
Yep.
In your researching this, did you find specific tools
Um,
software?
Actually, yeah, Bob brought in, I don't remember, it was Apex or something.
No, that's another learning platform we have. It's named off the top of my head. We had 2 presentations. No, Baseline is what we use for evaluation software.
We
Uh,
did have a couple. And Jen Parson, who is on the council, is a principal at another district. She was able to show us some of the things that she had. There are other districts out there around us that are using these and using them in full strength.
There's a number of different platforms, and they range
Right.
in expense, and
I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
it'll come to me in a second.
It's exciting to
When I
think
walk
of
in the door.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank
No?
you.
Thank you. Well, one more quick question I had, a little off topic, but I recall you talking about expanding some playground area behind the Woodland School last year. Did that happen, or
Well,
Was that-
unfortunately, we didn't expand it. We kind of
Now
had
that
to
it's-
take it away.
because of the bus
Parking.
route?
Well, the parking, we didn't have, anybody that's been there knows that there's no parking to be had.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
unfortunately, there was a basketball court that, I guess it was right around when I got there, that got, lined and is now parking, so
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. It's something though that in this whole feasibility study,
no, right.
that we talk at great length about. It's frustrating for a kid to see the field and know that it's a 5 to 10 minute walk to get
Yeah,
there,
right.
and then I only have 5 or 10 minutes if I was to go there, and then I have to come right back in 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's frustrating.
No, right.
So,
And they gotta get that energy out at that age.
Yeah. yeah,
Okay, all right, good.
The software is called Atlas Rubicon.
there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Needed a minute to process.
Well,
That's
I
all.
bought you the time.
That's right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well done. Good stalling tactic. Well,
Great. Great. Do we have, why don't we take one at a time? Do I have a motion to accept the edits to the Woodland Family Handbook? Motion from Mike, second from Scott, all in favor? Unanimous in favor. Do I have a motion to accept the Woodland School Improvement Plan? Motion from Don, second from Scott, all in favor? Unanimous in favor. Both those pass. Thank you very much for coming in. Always appreciate it.
you.
Good seeing you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you for your time.
have a good night, thank you.
Great artwork back there.
Ah, Woodland, huh?
There it is. Well,
Well, it is a real
What's that?
Memorial School. Every student that was involved, they had to tell you that he was also a Memorial School student. I said, what a rivalry in this town between, it's amazing, between Memorial and Brookside, and now Craig gets up and says, well, nice artwork, a Woodland student.
it's just this tremendous pride each principal has for
Foster's
their.
good accomplishment. Next up, we have Shining Star. We have Lucy Jenkins here with us.
I'm sure you all know Sarah Humiston.
Yes, hi, Sarah.
She's
How
our,
are you?
co-chair for our council.
Thank you both for coming in. Good to see you.
Good evening, hi Sarah, Lucy.
Want to start with the handbook?
Sounds good.
Actually, there are very minimal changes to our handbook. The only two things that have changed are we just tweaked our parking procedures and our arrival and dismissal to make it more safe for our families, and our staff changes. That was it. So that was nice and quick.
The the parking and the coming and going is always an issue over there, but
It is, but it's getting a lot better.
Good.
We're allowing the parents to come in only 5 minutes ahead of time, so it cuts down on all of the chaos and traffic in the hallways, which
Mhm.
was becoming a problem. So I think it's a little bit better.
Good.
There will, we still have parents that continue to complain about the parking. We recently had to tell them, no more parking in the fire lane, which, I have kind of just, ignored a little bit, but we've been told that can't happen anymore, so it won't happen again.
It's
Okay.
just to interrupt you for 1 second, it's interesting, the reason the handbooks go so quickly now is we spent so much time getting them aligned. I think we finally got
Yeah.
there where it's now common language across all of them, so it's just a matter of names each year, there's staff
Yes.
change, so that's excellent.
Yeah, you can see when you go through it, it's very
They all look
minimal
alike.
edits, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all for that.
Cool.
And actually, there aren't a whole lot of changes to our school improvement plan either. But I did want to just, do you want me to just go through any of the changes, or?
Yeah, that would be great if you
Okay.
could, yeah.
And again, there's small changes probably to you guys, but they're huge to us. I just want to let you know, our council consists of 2 parents, Shannon DiGiulinardo and Carrie Raynaud. Sarah Humiston is the co-chair, and then myself, and our teacher rep is Jennifer Mulcahy. And I thank all of them for participating. Last year, we presented that we were going to have a report card that we were going to use for all of our students at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, so that we had a baseline academically for our students, and at the end, so we could compare. We did pilot that, and it works really well for our older children, especially the ones that come full day, but it's not really age appropriate for our 3-year-olds. So we are gonna change that a bit. We're still gonna we'll go by our state guidelines, but it probably will be more aligned with the kindergarten report cards and our own checklists. But we tried it, and we figured we're gonna kinda combine the new with some of our old that was working out okay too. We tried to align our curriculum more towards kindergarten, the Houghton Mifflin curriculum, and we're finding that it doesn't always work for our 3 and 4-year-olds who are only here for maybe 2 days a week or 3 days a week. It works much better in our 5 mornings, 5 afternoons, or our full-day programs, which is normal. What else? We incorporated, just like the other schools did, our baseline edge evaluation system for our teachers. We've all been trained this year. We'll continue to work on that. I know it was a bit of a struggle for me personally to learn it this year, but I'm sure I'll be better next year. Probably our biggest challenge in the past 2 years since I've been the director are actually 2 things. One is meeting the needs of our English language learner population from a special education perspective, and bridging the gap between early intervention and Shining Star Preschool. And this is where I found that Sarah Humiston and Family and Community Network has been invaluable to us. So just as we are the feeder system to our kindergarten programs, early intervention, typically Criterion Valley, we get referrals from them for our special ed population, but we're missing a certain population, kids that don't go through early intervention, who end up coming to preschool for the first time, and then we're recognizing that may have a disability once they're with us. But by having Family and Community Network with us right in the building, a lot of their parents and the kids of the families that they service get to meet us because we're all in the same building, and they've been great as far as preparing them to either be seen in a screening or to get tested for services or even to come to our preschool. So that's been huge. And as far as the ELL population goes, last time I was here, I think I told you that we were going to do a diagnostic group on Friday afternoon using utilizing resources we already had. And so, God, since the beginning of the year, every Friday afternoon for the kids that come to us from early intervention that have a possible disability in speech and language. I've told you in the past, it's hard for us to determine if there is actually a disability or if it's a language difference. And this is a problem everywhere. It's not just for Milford. So what we've been doing is on Friday afternoons, and Bob, you and I and Jen Lancaster and Meg Belcito met on this. On Friday afternoons, the kids that have been referred to us, rather than putting them right in the referral process and hiring and contracting out for a bilingual speech pathologist, we've been having them come to a diagnostic group. So it's a 2.5-hour program on Friday afternoons. It's run by a classroom teacher and Yvette Alleman, who works for both Family and Community Network and us. And then during that time, our speech pathologist comes in. They do a full language group for 2.5 hours. We do provide busing for our families. And basically during that time, they come for 6 weeks, and then it's determined then if there's a delay in their native language and in English, and then we determine if we should evaluate at that point. So I think it's cut down on the number of students that we have to evaluate, and then the parents have the option of either they're evaluated and they come in with a disability, or the parents have the option of signing their children up and being a tuition-paying student. So I think that's been a huge success for us, and I do think that that's something we will continue. Next year, we have 3 teachers who will be available on Friday afternoons, so if we can, we want to have 3 groups running at the same time. It would mean that Yvette would have to kind of bounce between the 3, and then we would have our speech pathologist as well. So I thought that was huge. And it was timely because this year, we always try to make projections as far as how many special ed students were going to get referred to us, and it's been increasing over the years. But this year, our referrals far exceeded our predictions. So, which was a little alarming at first because we weren't prepared. Like, we expect maybe 50 or 60 referrals a year. This year we were up to 105.
Wow.
And probably, I mean, I would say about 20 of them came late last year and then over the summertime. So as soon as we came in September, we had this whole group that we had, and we have, guidelines we have to test within a certain amount of time. So we kind of started out really slow in the beginning, like not being able to catch up, and that's something that we have to think about for next year as far as being able to meet our state timelines and getting the kids evaluated before their 3rd birthday. So I don't know if this is going to be a pattern now, but 105 initial team meetings in 1 year is the highest that we've ever had.
Lucy,
So-
just to interrupt you for a minute on that, and a point that we've expanded preschool. You're seeing some of the challenges that we're having with students coming in. I want to just commend you for that innovative way you're addressing it proactively, so that we don't have to deal with that, or maybe have children who are misdiagnosed or actually are determined to be non-language speakers when really it's something else. So, but it may be worth us reflecting this over the course of this year. On you'll recall that we morphed Lucy's job as the team chair combined with the director down there. So Lucy is the team chair and the director, all in one. And this may be speaking to a problem in terms of you being able to be effectively evaluating staff and at the same time managing a caseload of potentially 105 new referrals. So I just want you to know you have my word that we'll look at that over the course of the year to see what that need is and how we can support you to do that work. So I just want the committee to be aware of that. Not everybody may know that we merged the 2 positions into one, and other schools do have their own dedicated team chair. The Shining Star does not. And we've continued to expand that program, so it may be putting Lucy in a difficult spot. So I just want to put that out there. Correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely right, and thank you. I think we've been fortunate because, as you know, we hired a half-time secretary, but she was a former team chair for 30 years, and she works harder than anybody I know, and she knows the law better than anyone I know. So because I have her, we were able to manage. But it's getting to the point where it's even just because 1/3 of our referrals are ELL students, so just the whole process of doing translations and things and communicating with the families. Again, we're lucky to have Yvette and we're lucky to have Tony, but it's just very time consuming, and we just want to make sure that the students get services if they need them on their 3rd birthday. And we've been okay, but I just worry if the numbers are going to go up.
And we'll still have Tony with us next year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
As far as I know, yes. And that goes for, I've said before, as far as our students, the number of students we have that are on the autism spectrum. In years past, you start with 2, and then it doubled and doubled and doubled, and we're up to over 20 students starting in the fall. So we've gone from 1 classroom to 2, back to 1 to 2, and I know Brookside is, I believe, I don't know if they're having 2. I
believe that's
I
right.
think there's 2 classrooms.
Yeah.
And how we managed our waiting list this year for our families that signed up, we have one substantially separate classroom for our children on the spectrum, and then we have another classroom of the kids that are either partial substantially separate and then part inclusion or full inclusion, but are still on the spectrum. So we were able to have that teacher teach inclusion, 2 sections, so a Blue Star and a Green Star program, and then in the afternoon, she can have her students just in the afternoon for discrete trials or ABA. So using one teacher in 2 different roles is awesome because we were able to accommodate everybody on the waiting list. So I think now, just because of late registration, we just have a couple of people, but as people move or whatever, I think we can accommodate everyone. And our full-day program from last year was a huge success. A lot of people wanted the same program this year, and we had to give them either the 5 morning or 5 afternoon. So that's something we'd be looking to do, as well as doing another full-day program. But that will be down the road, I think.
So there's a potential revenue source, additional
absolutely.
revenue. That's
Yes.
important. As
Yeah.
part of this whole equation.
And having the additional Blue and Green Star was also additional revenue that we didn't even plan on. So that's kind of cool.
Lucy, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I just had that quick question before we get too far past it. So you're talking about, obviously, this, more than double the
Mhm.
capacity here, and it sounded like, so I have 2 questions. One, I was reading an article, it said there's been a reclassification of how Asperger's is now being classified under the autism spectrum.
Mhm.
What impact will that potentially have on?
It won't have an impact on us
Okay.
because typically children don't get an Asperger's diagnosis at the preschool age.
Okay.
So it won't have any impact on us. What we are finding is that a lot of our kids, who knows what's going to happen as far as if their diagnosis will change from ASD or PDD to Asperger's, but we're seeing such a huge difference in some of our kids who are just diagnosed with ASD. I mean, we have some very, very high functioning, and then we have some that are not as high functioning. They certainly have their strengths, but their challenges are just greater. So as far as the Asperger's, that won't have any impact on us
Okay.
that I can think of right now.
That may be something, Bob, we're gonna have to talk with Meg about then. 'Cause if it's not having an impact at Lucy's level, it may later on, so we may wanna
Yeah.
see
well,
if we
with
can
Meg.
talk about that. It sounded like you were really near asking for something.
It did.
So, how can we help? I mean, you have such a phenomenal program. Again, something else that we can kind of, just another feather in the cap of Milford, and what a phenomenal education our students and our children get and deserve, and what a great job you guys do. You doubled the number of people. You are doing 2 people's jobs, and yes, it's great that you have an assistant that we're able to sort of use additional skills. Are you looking? Are you looking for? And I mean, we just got our budget approved, and there's not a lot of money floating around these days. But is there an impact? Is it an educational impact that we should be concerned about here? Should we be?
The only educational impact would be if we couldn't transition the kids from early intervention into our program by their 3rd birthday. So if we get, basically when we get the referrals, and Sarah and I went to a conference on this recently, basically when we get that, we have to contact the parent within 5 days. And so if I'm not available, for a couple of days, and I might have 10 or 15 referrals on my desk, it's really difficult to contact them. So I've had, Tony Jalello has done a lot of that. So I think, we have great support down there. I mean, I have the director of nursing down there. I have Family and Community Network. We have Spanish-speaking staff. Kathy Perry, anytime I call her and we need anything, she's great about that, so thank you. So the only thing would be that, and I did ask for that in the budget, and I know that it wasn't a possibility this year, but I would be asking, not even for a specific team chair, it would even be for the support staff that we have. Just increasing a certain amount of hours would probably do it for us. So it's cost-effective and a minimal request, I think. If it can happen, I put it down for 2014. I know it's not a possibility, and that's fine. We'll make it work. And I don't want this to be a complaint. It's not a complaint. It's just a
No,
reality
no.
with the number of
No, you're
students.
not-
I just can't.
I asked.
It's a very
keep up.
successful program. I wanted to flourish,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. Within, potentially, high risk age group gets from early, right? So.
Mhm.
Donnie?
I think I want to help your cause here. When Jen met with us and Meg over the budget, we were informed that we're mandated now for ELL. We had a presentation where it shows an average of 7 years to transition a kid into normal classroom, right? And we did approve some ELL additional resources. In my opinion, it is extremely clear that we should be investing in ELL resources at Shining Star, because you're getting them that exposure early on and will help those kids get into a normal classroom setting that much sooner than if we don't help you with this. So we have a $40 million budget. I have no problem going in and looking for funds, and I know Scott loves budget stuff, so the important thing is if we look at what we've been listening to for the last 2 months, and it's an outcry for more ELL, it's transitioning those kids into the classroom, how do you shorten that cycle? And here's a perfect opportunity to do that, and to give you the resources, and if I'm hearing everything correctly, your program actually drives revenue for us, correct? To me, it's a no-brainer. I don't see why we would even hesitate to give you the resources that you're looking for. So if there's a way for us to figure it out, it's not just good for you and your program and us as the district, but most importantly, those kids that are coming into our school. Now, I do remember when Jen presented this, I asked for a historical numbers so we could see what that hockey stick was. So I'm happy that you said it doubled, because my concern is, what's it going to be like 5 years from now? And what are we doing in our planning and in our conversations with the finance committee to make sure that we do get finances to support this? You're doing a great job putting everything together with like duct tape and paper clips, right? Congratulations, but that can only support growth for so long. So if we're not looking at this serious and giving you what you need and helping you today, this is only going to become a problem down the road. So,
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I know you'd asked for the hours. I don't remember what the numbers were off the top of my head. I realize we're just finalizing budgets at this point, but I think it's worth at least getting the information. I know you said you were going to look over the next school year. My concern is it already doubled. We've got the data from what last year looks like. I know we're going to get some more data as we get closer to this year.
No, I
and-
remember, I was looking for a position next year, but for this year, adding hours would be, we could do that for the coming year.
Yeah, if we can.
But adding a team chair was something I would look at a little bit more depth before we actually add a full-time head.
Okay, no, and I would agree,
Yeah.
if we can add some,
If
I
we
know
add
that was
hours,
something
that's-
Lucy was looking at, potentially adding hours. Again, what the impact would be great to look at on that. I think the other thing is, one thing that we've seen over the last year or so is the sharing of resources. You have a team chair at how many buildings right now, in addition to Lucy?
There's
Oh,
one.
at each of them, except for
Okay.
Shining Star, so
And
6.
from a caseload perspective, how, and I'm certainly not looking to compare, is there the availability, and I don't know the expertise to potentially even help
You know
ease
what,
some of her
there
caseload as well.
isn't from other team chairs, because the high school has a huge caseload. They're looking
Yeah.
at upwards of 200, so
Yeah.
I know the memorial team chair helps out at that level, and everybody's very good about, but my
Okay.
caseload is nothing compared to the high school, so.
But you also have 2 jobs, so I want to make sure that we're,
And I want to emphasize that it's not just the ELL population. I mean, our numbers are increasing for every type
Yeah.
of disability. And I have to say,
Right.
this year, we had a huge amount of move-ins, so, that we didn't plan for. And it's not, it's not just kids that are coming in maybe with a speech and language delay. We've gotten 2 or 3 kids that have moved in that have been on the spectrum. And so when they come in and we don't plan for them budget-wise, we don't know that they might need a one-to-one assistant or all the services that children on the spectrum need. We've gotten a couple of kids that have moved in with Down syndrome. So you're looking at significantly needy children, and we can certainly provide the services, but we didn't plan for them. So between the move-ins and the increase in the ELL population, and as far as the programs for ELL, we've been very resourceful. Like, again, I want to emphasize, Sarah's, Yvette and some of her other staff run groups of children that English isn't their primary language, and so Yvette knows all of the families, as
Yeah.
does Sarah. So they communicate with the families so that it's an easier transition for them. They're getting the exposure. And that's what it is for our kids, it's the lack of exposure. So that's why it's better to put them in a play group or a language-rich group, because then at least they have exposure, and then we can determine that it's not a disability.
Yeah, and then the big thing for us, well, at least what I got out of the statistics that we were shown about 6 weeks ago, is that early, getting them into these programs early is critical for us in the district. So, and I know we need to outreach more to get more kids into the program if possible. So, I commend you. I just want to make sure that we are really looking at this not just as how can we help you today, but really what's the impact over the next 3 to 5 years. Is this just a spike, temporary spike? Is it going to be a continued pattern? So to that point, so these increases that you're talking about, the 50 to 100, is that for next school year, or was that what happened in this school year?
This is what's happened this school year.
This school year.
Yes.
So how soon will you know the increase for next year?
Well, we
Is
get
that September or?
We don't know, because our referrals come all year round. So
All year
so
round.
we get referrals when the child turns 2.6 from
Yeah.
early intervention. So we get them all year. And you can see patterns, like over the summer, we tend to get a lot. So there's a lot of September birthdays, September, October, November. Then you see a little bit of a lull. And then in the spring, we get hammered again with the April, May, June birthdays.
Yeah.
So, part of another thing that Kathy and I have talked about in the past, we do have some families who their kids do need a program. They may not qualify for special education, and if they can't afford tuition, these are kids that we would consider
Sure.
at risk.
Yeah.
And so maybe somewhere down the road, we could do a scholarship for 1 or 2 families that, they can't afford it, but we know that
Again,
it could
the
turn.
earlier we can get them
Right,
into
right.
these types of programs, the better it is for the school and the town. So here's what I'd like to see happen. I'd really love to see, again, we had Jen and Meg come in here and kind of give us some numbers when they were asking for the ELL resources. But if we could come back sooner than later anyway, with that, here's the impact, here's the growth rate, here's where we could be in 3 years. So, and based on that 3-year plan, this is the type of expansion we're looking at. But not just that, it's what is the benefit to that? And benefits being, okay, well, if we're adding this, what kind of an income is that to the district? And then could Jen come back and say, if we're getting these kids into the program 2 years earlier, so instead of getting them integrated into the classroom at the high school level, which is where I noticed it on the chart, or maybe it was 7th or 8th grade, if they're integrated into the classroom, 4th, 5th grade, and we can invest in that kind of thing, then we have a much better chance of going and, accomplishing what needs to be done. But to me, this is a really important issue. It's something that's going to continue to grow, and this is going to be, every year I can't go to the finance committee and saying, oh wow, don't know what happened, but we need 5 new ELL teachers, and they're like, no, we're not going to give you the money. If we can go to them with here's the trend, here's the impact, and here are the benefits, I think we'll have a much better chance to support you in your group and your needs and the district, if we can pull that together. So if it's possible, and I know that might take some time, but we really need to do this. We can't just brush this and say, okay, we'll get you a half a resource or a resource. You know what, next year you may need 5.
Mhm.
And if we can find these things ahead of time, it just helps us help you that much easier, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I just would like to echo off something Lucy said, that she doesn't want to make the point that it's only the ELL. I would encourage any school committee member that hasn't been into Shining Star to take a trip and go into Shining Star and see what a phenomenal job both these women do. I've been there, not as much as I should be, but I've been there 2 or 3 times, and I have to say, I'm gonna use some examples of what I see and what a phenomenal job they do, and I don't want the public to be up in arms about this, but the first thing I see is security. People are checking in at the, really, a basement of a high school, at a door, and the offices are down the corridor. And they're dealing with a full-time and a part-time program. So you have people coming and going all day long. And the environment, when you walk around there, is so safe. And you see kids coming down the hall, and they're getting hugs from the teachers. So, that's an obstacle that they have. You take the time to go into the medically challenged room. As everybody knows, a child at the age of 3 in the state of Massachusetts is guaranteed a public education. Go to the medically challenged room and see what they deal with, and what a phenomenal job they do. And then just all the general, children, in general, and the new people that are coming into the community that go into Sarah's programs, and Sarah's working with them. So there's a lot of obstacles down there, and I ask any of you that haven't been there to please go. And Don, I agree with you, and Scott, I agree with you. If there's a way we can help with money, this is an area we need to do it.
Yeah.
All right, because people are reaching out to us. They're in our community. They're reaching out to our community. But when you see what these, ladies deal with on a daily basis, and the job that they really truly do, and I have to go on record even with the director of nursing, Mrs. Dagny's, just unbelievable. This is an area that we should focus on and try and really reach out, because it's almost like a foundation program. And you can't build a good house if you haven't got a good foundation, and this is where it is right here. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, and it really is what differentiates us from a lot of the surrounding towns.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
and Mike, I didn't mean to hang on the ELL. It was just the fact that we just went through.
No,
that
I
as part of
understand.
the
I just-
budget. So it is
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
your needs.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's
And,
everything,
Yeah.
and that is important as well, and I agree with you, Don.
I think if the general sense that I certainly got, and mine as well, fast. We gotta move quick on this. This is something, we've seen an impact
Right.
already. Those kids are still gonna be there in, I hate to burst your bubble, in like 100 more days when school starts back up.
Yeah, what are you gonna
And
do
I'm
if
sorry I
another?
said that out loud.
if another
I realize that
50
when
come
3
in,
weeks left
you
of
know?
school is not what a teacher wants to hear, but in 80 to 100 days, when school starts back up again,
Yeah.
we're gonna be right back there. So, yeah, I
Right.
mean, if the short-term
Yeah.
solution is add the hours.
We will work
then
with Lucy
we gotta go
immediately.
quick.
Yeah, great.
So-
Thank
Great.
you.
Lucy, you've probably
Yeah.
seen that spike because the word's out about the great job you do.
Oh,
Yep.
that's
You know what I
probably
mean?
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
We
Families,
do, I think we have a
families
phenomenal program.
absolutely
We
seek
always
that,
have,
you
yes.
know?
Yeah.
And so again, in 3 months from now, if you're looking, all of a sudden you hit with another increase of 50,
I know.
you know?
Yeah.
So-
Well, and if you ask any of the area pediatricians, they'll tell you that the number of, we're getting significant diagnoses that we weren't seeing in the past.
Mm.
So things that are rare, we're starting to see, and we want to be equipped for that, and I think that we are. But we just have to have the resources, and right now we do.
Yeah.
So I think we're doing okay. And just to touch on something that you had said about security, I think we're pretty tight downstairs.
Yep.
We have the front office, we have the panic button. Lisa Mandilli, Lisa Beyer, and Anna Cahill one of them is always at the door buzzing people in. We have people stationed, somebody's always in the hallway during dismissal and arrival to ask if somebody's unfamiliar. We have the walkie-talkies, and John Tiernan is a presence for us as well. Even though he's stationed at the high school, we are in constant communication with him if we need him. So he's been great.
Well, that's what I was saying, what a great job you do, but it's a concern, and I know you and I've, had that conversation, but they do a great job, they really do.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
a nice staff.
Yeah. Good, yeah, I think we all do agree, absolutely. And again, I know it can be hard, I know a lot of the problem is trying to predict, in discussions we've had in the past, trying to project, but again, where your area drives revenue with the potential to drive more, it seems inevitable that we can find some ways to help you out, so I look forward to that as well, so.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
With that said, do we have a motion to accept the Shining Star School Improvement Plan? Motion from Donnie, second from Joe. All in favor? Unanimous in favor, motion passes. Do I have a motion to accept the Shining Star Family Handbook? Motion from Scott, second from Mike. All in favor? Unanimous in favor, motion passes. Thank you so much for coming in, ours a
You're welcome.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Pass our thanks along to the rest of your team as well. You guys do an awesome job.
Thank you both.
Oh, jeez.
Is that our segue to the next item on our agenda, the report of the superintendent of schools, Bob?
Yes, these are just really housekeeping items. We've already voted on, the committee here has voted on the policies. What we discovered, Terry and I going through that to update the policy book, is that file EGA was the old policy, which we should have removed at the same time, because the new file IJNDB replaces both that file's namesake and the EGA policy. What was missing, and this is the sort of the second part to the story, is file IJNDB did not have, it had a sign-off for staff. It did not have a student sign-off section, so we've added that in there, so now the form is correct. We can use it for our students and for our staff, and then this would replace and take the other file, EGA, out of the policy book, and now we're done with the policy. That's really in a nutshell what these two items are. They're linked together on here.
Okay, yeah, and again, just for clarification, that's for the network and internet acceptable use
That's correct.
form. So.
Yeah, and the committee already approved that. It was just this. It was just a sign-off portion, which we didn't include for students on it. You're just voting on that, on adding that sign-off sheet. Yeah.
Have a motion to accept. Motion from Mike, second from Don. All in favor? Unanimous in favor.
Thank you. The Technology Task Force, the last meeting I was asked to put this on as a discussion item for the school committee, just to give you an update on that. You heard from Len Beaudry when he came to present to us, and of course there's been a lot of discussion in the town about what we need to do for technology with the finance committee, and in fact there was discussion about putting a couple of additional technicians in our school budget to support that, and I pushed back on that, as you recall, with finance committee saying that this really ought to be a town function, having a town technology a budget line. Shouldn't be falling upon the shoulders of the school committee's budget. And there's agreement by members of the FinCom at the time. So there's a task force that's evolved, as you know, from town administrator, from the Board of Selectmen to push. At the last meeting, the discussion, I believe it was Patrick that had asked to have this as a discussion, to have school committee representation on this task force. I did bring that forward. At this point, there's no one specific board representation. There's no Board of Selectmen member on the group. There's no other boards in town that have a designee. I did express the school committee's interest to have somebody sit on that group. We had our first meeting. I was invited on the panel, myself, Chief O'Laughlin, Rick Villani, Town Administrator, Barbara Ogier, Town Treasurer. I can't remember the parent's name. A parent volunteer, I apologize. The first name is Carlos. I can't think of his last name. He's got a technology background, so he's on as a volunteer. Chris Moran from the Finance Committee, I don't know if he was sitting on in that capacity or a different capacity, but he's at the meeting. And the first step was to take an inventory of what we have in place in terms of hardware, software, how we're spending money over the last 18 months, from the town side, the school side, and pull all that together, begin to pull together this information. So we've just begun that work. We had an initial meeting on Tuesday. And again, just to give you an update on that, there's not, at this point, I would not ask the committee to take a vote of a member, because I'm not sure that that's how this task force will go, but I did express the committee's interest to have representation. Okay. And as we start down this path, and I don't know if we're going to hire a consultant or if this group's going to take on the work itself, that work is still evolving. So if you have input on that, I'm happy to bring that back to this group.
Bob, I've thought about this since the last meeting when Patrick brought it up, and the committee members really didn't seem to get too involved, and I was going to make a recommendation. If I know that Christine and Scott have got the policy, Dawn and I got the safety. I don't know what anybody's schedule is, but if necessary, maybe you could split Dawn and I up. One of us take the safety committee and one of us take the technology committee. You know, unless Joe, I don't know if you have the time, but I think it's important that there is a school committee member sitting in that committee.
Yeah,
You know, so.
I honestly was hoping to be on that. And Mike, we could certainly do that, but part of the technology actually ties into the security.
Right.
Because one of the things that you and I have been asking for, and were even promised, all of us were that there'd be cameras in that upper C wing, F wing, E wing,
Yeah.
from September. and they're still not up. And there's still issues. It's, the fact that these things were promised, set aside, not followed through, and then I just find out about these things when I'm on the Safety and Security
Right.
Committee is extremely disturbing. And we need to really focus on this. Now, I do have, wouldn't say, I've been in sales and marketing, but all of my clients, I focus on, the technology space. So I know a lot's about, encryption and security backups and, single sign-on and all that kind of stuff. I have no problem being on that committee. In fact, I'd like to be on it if it's possible. If it means us splitting up, that's fine. Although I don't mind doing both. I mean, I do work from home, so I kind of have that luxury of being able to
Yeah.
be up here when I need to be. But it's really important,
Yeah,
and it
it
does
is.
kind of
Yeah,
sink in with one another.
I think it is an important area, and we have a very much vested interest in it. I might suggest that maybe we wait for Patrick and Christine,
Mhm.
and maybe wait another meeting until Bob can get a little bit more
That's fine.
information,
Sure.
a little bit more direction.
Yep.
But, at least we know we have Bob in there now. Definitely can't hurt to have another person.
And I'll share this
I
with the
would
group
agree.
again, and your point's well taken, too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and I would echo the need, I think, to really have, I really want to see an independent consultant company come in that has the knowledge to, really.
That's what I've been asking for,
really
Robbie.
do it.
They
Yeah,
do
no,
free
no,
assessments
agreed.
all
Yeah,
the time,
yeah. So-
So,
I think the committee's just looking to do some legwork initially before bringing on a
Right.
consultant.
Right, right.
That's my take on it as well from the meeting I had, yeah.
Yeah. And do we have a resource here at the high school, as someone that's in IT that could potentially want to sit in on that committee as well? Because they'll have more intimate knowledge and probably be able to speak a lot more knowledgeably than any of us could about the issues.
Yeah,
within
what
the
came up at
school
the
system.
meeting was, again, I apologize, I can't think of his last name. Carlos, I believe is his first name. I had met him for the first time. He's a parent in our preschool, so I should have asked him if Lucy was here. But he was going to, I had offered up any of our, for example, Rich Alves would be a good resource for him, where Rich has been in the system for a while and knows some of the, having been our IT director prior to Rob and prior to Len, obviously. So I did offer him up to be available, as I did Vinny Kizo, who knows a lot of our elementary platforms, and any of our IT staff would be available to this task force. So I know that's their next step, is kind of collecting what switches are where, how do we, what are the drops, Verizon, Comcast, how does it all work? And so they're beginning to take a look at that, but I'm not sure the next steps. We just had a brief sort of get-together meeting this past week.
And when is the next meeting?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I know it was set, if I have my phone with me, I can tell you. Next couple of weeks, it will be.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you could keep the committee apprised.
course.
And we
So
can make decisions.
we
from
touch
there
this
moving
next
forward.
meeting when Pat and Christina.
Yep,
Yep.
we'll keep it on the agenda.
All right.
Yeah, good idea.
And as far as Woodland School, I don't have any new, it's kind of a standing item on the agenda. I don't have
Mhm.
anything, new information on that. We've been meeting, but nothing that comes to mind since our last meeting.
Okay. In that last report, was everything still going well and ahead of schedule? So-
Yeah,
Good.
exactly right.
All right, great, thank you. Next up, we have the report of the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Human Resources. Kathy?
This evening, for the committee's approval, I have 4 warrants. The first warrant is in the amount of $19,631.17.
I have a motion from Mike, a second from Don, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The second warrant is in the amount of $161,488.22.
Motion from Scott, second from Joe, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The third warrant is in the amount of $15,175.29.
I have a motion from Joe, second from Mike, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The last warrant is in the amount of $188,824.10.
A motion from Scott, second from Don, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The school committee has the latest personnel update from our previous meeting. No vote is required. It is for your information only.
Robbie?
Yep.
On that, right, that's the,
Mm-hmm.
right, so I took a look at that, right, no, the only thing I wanted to see is, most of those positions they seem to be like the stipend positions, if I'm
Correct.
right? So, the only question I had was, I know we have evaluations for the teachers, but for these stipend positions, what do we have in there for, checks and balances? Do they do an evaluation? Do we know how much time they're spending? And is there any way on that report you could show us what we're spending on that stipend? Because, one of the things that's kind of jumped out at me, and, I've only been on the committee for just over a year, but, stipends are $500,000 a year. And
Coaches.
with
that's
coaches,
correct.
yeah, with everybody. It's a significant portion of the budget. And then on that, I've also noticed that some folks can receive multiple stipends. So if you're receiving multiple stipends and, what I'd like to do is just understand what time is involved for that stipend. I mean, is there a system in place that monitors that? Because what I've noticed is in this year, I've seen people requesting stipends and stipends being approved. I've never seen a stipend that says, hey, we no longer do this, so we no longer need this. So I don't see them ever having an end of life. I see them starting all the time, and it just, to me, it's, I don't know. I don't know if every single stipend on that original sheet you ever gave me is still in existence, or if they're all filled, and if they're not, where does that money go?
Well, a majority of our stipends are contractual. And on that list I gave you, I believe in the beginning of the budget process, I did tell you which ones were contractual. Now, we
All right.
don't have to fill those.
Yeah, on the quick question on the contractual, is that part of the teacher's contract, or is that a separate contract with that individual?
Teacher's contract.
It is part of the teacher's contract?
Correct.
Okay.
And again, we don't have to fill those stipendary positions, but as long as there is a need from the building-based principals,
Right.
we have moved to fill them. We have not filled particular stipends or coaching positions where there is not an interest from the students.
Right.
Volleyball and the boys comes to mind. For instance, if there's no enrollment, we do not post for a volleyball boys coach. The positions themselves are definitely interest-based by the student's activity in each one of those roles. So for instance, at before the start of next school year, I will touch base with each one of the principals and make sure that they had an interest in the club. The principals monitor the clubs, and the principals monitor how much time the individual that is put into the role is doing. That's number
Yeah.
one. Number two is the principal has the right every year not to rehire the same teacher or employee into the role of the stipend.
All right.
So it's evaluated by being rehired in the following year.
All right, so all I'm gonna ask, Bob, is if you could ask the principals to just look at the stipends that they have under them and just get an understanding, are they all filled? Are they all necessary? How much time goes into these? And does the time justify what we're paying? And if we can make some adjustments, let's make some adjustments. I mean, if there's some low-hanging fruit there for, that we can capture, to help people like Lucy, that would be great.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. I do have for the committee's approval this evening, course reimbursement request in the amount of $15,909.
A motion from Scott, second from Mike, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
I also want to mention that this is the update for the May meeting for our financial. We're moving into the close of the fiscal year 13 budget. I almost said 14 because we've worked so hard on that lately. I want to say it looks as though we will be able to do a couple of utility projects, one being the final C-wing locker replacement, as well as a possibility of the cameras, but as Dawn has expressed, we're reviewing that because if we can't get them live, we're not going to move our monies into that project until we can get those cameras up and running live. As well, we have a longer contractual issue for unencumbered payroll. I don't typically have to forecast all the way to the end of June, but I can tell you that we're moving in the right direction and our budget is right where we need it to be. And hopefully we'll have additional projects to report on next month.
Excellent. Excellent.
And
Good
that's all
job,
I have,
Kathy.
I believe, this evening.
You always keep a great eye on
You bet.
everything. Thank you.
Certainly does.
Yep. Good. Good to know we're on track. Okay, and no jury duty, so.
What?
Somebody mark the calendar. That never happened.
Must be slow in court.
That brings us to our next item,
Somebody's following the law.
subcommittee updates. Do we have a safety and security subcommittee update? Nothing?
We'll just talk about the Chris Herron project, I don't know if you want to touch base on that.
Just real quick, one of the things that, I met with Bob this week, and from the last meeting I was at, so that was 3 meetings ago, they said that they were bringing in Chris Herron, who was a former Celtics player, had issues with drugs, and we're lucky enough to have him in the school in September to present to the students in 2 separate meetings. One of the things that I thought would be really might be of interest is to see if we could get him to do a 3rd show that evening, where the students or parents who may have an interest in this as well can also attend. So, and we did talk about that being, part of safety and security, where it's, talks about drugs and stuff like that. If we can build awareness and those things, that should be part of safety and security as well. So, I'll wait to hear from you, Bob, as to whether or not that's doable. And
Yeah, I spoke with
Mm-hmm.
feasible.
Meg Balsito about that because she's the one that coordinated, she and I saw Chris Herron present at Nipmuc Regional High School. And it's just a tremendously powerful presentation, and linking that with what Paul affectionately called sort of an education and awareness campaigning, this kind of thing, and letting parents know what the dangers are, how to identify that in their children's lives, and what kinds of, prescription medications are at home, and how to basically train our parents to be more active in the lives of their kids around drugs, which they may not know a lot about. So Dawn did come to me with a very serious, legitimate concern, and we also have as part of our wellness committee. So on June 4th, the wellness team is coming together to discuss the Metro West Adolescent Youth Health Survey that talks about drug usage and so forth, and how we're going to address those things. So it all really dovetails into that health and wellness plan for the district moving forward to next year.
Just a couple quick questions I have on that. So, one, I think it's phenomenal idea. The more education we can get around, prevention and ways that we can work smarter as parents, I think is and help our children is fantastic. My only question I would have on that is what's the cost that's associated with it?
So each year I don't know the exact dollar amount. There's enough that's been appropriated. We stopped giving school councils an appropriation. Some years back we had given them like $7,000 a year. Then we scaled that back to $2,500. The only department that retains that I've felt that we should keep the money for is the special education department. So this is really not just necessarily a function of special education, but it benefits the whole district. So Meg has said, well, we'll move the money from there and then make this a district effort so that all the school councils could come in together on this, PTO. So there's already money earmarked in this year's money that Meg was able to put aside for this purpose. So we have it covered. Now, adding the parent evening may be an added expense we'll have to look into.
As you're looking into that, I think it'd be great if we can do it for the kids. I think if we can do it for the adults, it'd be fantastic as well. Just a thought is see, as it is part of the health initiative, would be to talk to Paul with the Department of Public Health and see if they would be able to help partner with us from a budgetary component as well as from a sponsorship. It helps us from a communication, getting more names out, getting more word out. In addition to Lenny Marcone through our community use network, we've got a whole different, there's a whole other population of folks that use that network that may or may not have children in the school. They're either not yet school age, they've got cousins, they've got nieces that may still be impacted because they're still in their houses. But I think kind of having that 3-tiered effect between public health, community use, and through the public schools, I think that'd be, it's going to, I think, help mitigate the cost from our school budget, in addition to, I think, get just better communication out to the public, too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll reach out to them. Great.
Good. Excellent.
Mr. Chair,
Kathy?
since Mr. Mazzucchelli has retired, I do need a sick leave bank committee member. We're coming to the end of the school year, and for the following school year, if a member could volunteer to be on that committee, that would be great for me.
Do you have any
Again.
volunteers?
Volunteer.
Joe?
I'm not participating in anything
Good-
just yet.
Good
so-
opportunity
Be
to
a
get
good start.
get your feet wet a little bit?
Sick.
Right.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Does that require us to vote on that? Joe volunteers to sit on the subcommittee for the sick bank. Have a motion from Don, second from Scott. All in favor? Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
Just
Unanimous in favor?
point of order, and won't take very long, is just finishing up the policy subcommittee.
Mhm.
There was no update, we did not, so, but before because I think that's new under new business, so just wanted to,
I don't want to cut Kathy off. She was
no,
anxious.
she's good, she's excited, I know, which is good, but
She has all the money.
and she's in charge, right, she's got the purse strings, let's make her happy.
That's true,
Okay.
that's true.
But
So-
thank you, Scott. There is no
You're welcome.
policy committee
No, we
update.
can move on from that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there any other new business? Mike?
Mr. Chairman, this time of year with graduation, I've been approached by two former Milford School Committee members. First, of course, being Mr. Mazzucchelli, has asked to be able to give the diploma to his son Matthew at graduation, so I would ask the committee to authorize that. And as well as former school committee member and former selectman Sal Semino has reached out to me to be able to give the a diploma to his grandson. So I would ask the committee to authorize that as well. So two members, former member Paul Mazzucchelli and Sal Semino. Paul to his son and Mr. Semino to his grandson.
Very nice. So you make a motion to...
I'll make a
have them-
motion that we accept to allow them to give their son and grandson the diplomas.
Okay, very good. Do I have a second? Don? All in favor? Unanimous in favor. Very nice. Good. That'd be a special occasion for them. It'd
Yep.
be very nice. Good.
Yep.
Any other new business? Any old business?
I called Carla Oliva and study total, so I just want to apologize in the beginning. Grew up
It's
with
not
her,
even that old
you
business.
know.
It's not even
I
that
do
old.
that all the time.
not that
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Also not that old, the Technology Task Force meeting is happening on June
Oh,
5th.
good.
It's Wednesday, June 5th. See how fast we can get answers here? And I will bring that forward, the committee's interest forward at that time as well.
Great, thank you,
Thanks.
Bob. Any other members? No, good. We have a motion to adjourn. Motion from Mike, second from Scott. All in favor? Thank you.